Every year during the NBA season, multiple players fly under the radar and get lost in the midst of all the superstar talent around them in the league. Especially this season, with teams and players putting up historic offensive numbers, it seems more and more players are going unnoticed or aren't being talked about as much as they should be. So I went ahead and found 5 NBA players who I think are underrated this season or aren't being talked about enough despite playing extremely well. Similar to my other videos, this isn't a definitive list of the 5 most underrated players in the league, just 5 players who I think deserve more recognition and that I want to personally talk about. How is everybody doing? My name is Gray Hoops, and I hope you enjoy this video. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is currently playing in his first season as a Denver Nugget alongside stars Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Last year, the Nuggets finished as the 6th seed in the Western Conference, and despite not having a huge offseason, the Nuggets this season are currently the 1st seed in the West heading into the All-Star break this season. I know Jokic is having another MVP-worthy season, but in my opinion, KCP is one of the biggest factors in why the Nuggets are the 1st seed. And in fact, I think he's playing the best season of basketball in his career and is one of the best role players, if not the best, in all of the NBA. KCP, who has started in all 48 games he's played in for the Nuggets this season, is averaging 11.3 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. Now, this might not sound elite, however, KCP is doing this on 46% from the 3-point line, on a solid 4.4 attempts per game. Good enough for 3rd in the league in 3-point percentage, and 1st in the league for players taking more than 3 attempts per game. As well as his elite shooting, he's also clocking in 1.4 steals a game, putting him right outside the top 10 in steals per game. KCP has looked like the definition of a 3-and-D player this season, and now joining the Nuggets, a team who's been criticized defensively in the past, have improved their defensive rating month by month and have gone from the 2nd to worst team defensively to 15th in the league and are currently 3rd in defensive rating in the month of January. Jokic has improved defensively as well as the team improving as a whole, but adding KCP, an elite 3-and-D player, has put them into real contention territory. And KCP isn't too far out from the Lakers championship in 2020 and has proved that he can really be the difference maker come playoff time for the Nuggets. It's no surprise to find out that the championship squad that KCP was on was one of the best defensive teams in the league in 2020. I know I said this list wasn't a definitive ranking, but I do think KCP is one of, if not the most underrated players in the NBA this season. In the 2022 offseason, the Atlanta Hawks would trade 23-year-old Kevin Huerter to the Sacramento Kings for basically scraps. Even at the time, this trade would leave people scratching their heads wondering why the Hawks would trade such a young sniper for low value. Going into this season, the expectations for the Sacramento Kings were not incredibly high, as most places had the Kings fighting for a play-in spot pre-season. However, the Kings have blown expectations out of the water and are currently the 3rd seed and are pushing for their first playoff berth in nearly 20 years. Huerter is helping lead the charge as he's having the best season yet in his young career. He's currently averaging 15.3 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists, while doing this on a scorching hot 40% from the 3-point line. He's not just doing this on a few attempts per game either, he's shooting nearly 7 3-pointers a game, which would put him right at 29th in the league in 3s attempted per game. However, out of those 29 players, only 3 are shooting at a higher percentage than Kevin. Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, and Lauri Markkanen, putting Kevin in elite company as one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA. It's not a surprise that Huerter is having a breakout season, as he never really did fit the Hawks team in the prior years, and playing alongside Sabonis, one of the best passing big men of all time, as well as Fox, another solid facilitator, is giving Huerter all the extra space and touches needed for him to exceed as an elite 3-point specialist. As well as his elite shooting, Kevin is no slouch on defense either. As a tall 6'7" guard who is no longer having to hide Trae Young's awful defense, people are starting to recognize Kevin as a solid 3-and-D type player in the league. Combine all that with his decent playmaking ability, Kevin has the potential to be a 17-5-5 kind of guy in the near future. The Kings have locked him up through the 25-26 season on a steal of a contract at 4 years, $65 million, so don't be surprised to see the Kings make some noise in the near future with Huerter facilitating or knocking down some big shots in the playoffs. The Wizards are currently the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference and are 24-26. They're currently on a 6-game winning streak, and leading this team is forward Kristaps Porziņģis. Porziņģis is currently having his healthiest season in the NBA since honestly his rookie or sophomore sophomore season. Porziņģis has played in 42 of the 50 games for the Wizards this season and has had the best season of his career so far. You could argue that his 2018 All-Star season is better, which I wouldn't necessarily disagree with, as the stats are incredibly similar. This season, Porziņģis is averaging 22 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, while during his All-Star year he averaged 22.7 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 1.2 assists. While these stats are similar, Porziņģis is having his most efficient season to date, shooting 47% from the floor, a solid 35% from 3, and 82% from the line, good enough for an above average league-wide 60% true shooting percentage, as well as a career high in steals, and is once again top 10 in blocks this season. His defensive mobility have been looking much better, and he is currently helping the Wizards anchor the 14th best defensive rating, despite not being a playoff team. I don't necessarily think Porziņģis should be an all-star this season. However, I think his name should be brought up along with players who will make this all-star game this season, such as Pascal Siakam, who is putting up better stats but on a worse team. He's less efficient and isn't as impactful as a defender. He's playing several more minutes per game than Porziņģis, and he also has a worse player efficiency rating than Porziņģis. Kristaps is absolutely having a borderline all-star season and is solidifying himself as a potential top 30 player in the NBA when healthy. Despite this, the Ringer just ranked him 63rd in the NBA yesterday, behind the likes of Marcus Smart and Aaron Gordon. I do think that if the Wizards keep up their elite play as of recently going into the second half of this season, and Porziņģis can stay healthy, then more people will start giving him his credit where it is due. This last player I would not call underrated, but I would say that they are severely disrespected and have been for most of their career. The Trailblazers this season have underperformed to say the least, but going into the All-Star break, they are currently only 3 games behind the 4th-seeded Clippers, so I wouldn't count them out completely just yet, especially since Damian Lillard is having the best season of his career at the age of 32, and seemingly no one is talking about it. On the season, Lillard is averaging 30.4 points, which is 6th in the league currently and a career high for Lillard, as well as 7.3 assists per game, putting him firmly in the top 10 league-wide in assists as well. Lillard is known to take incredibly tough shots, so the most surprising factor in this is that Lillard is doing all of this on career highs in efficiency. Talking about efficiency though, in his last 10 games, Lillard is averaging an astounding 39 points per game on 53% shooting, 40% from the 3-point line, and 95% from the free throw line. 39 points per game on 50, 40, 90 shooting is absolutely insane. Just 3 games ago, Damian Lillard would put up 60 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists on a monster 72% shooting. Literally just 3 games ago, and seemingly no one is talking about this. Less than a week later, the Ringer would put out their top 100 list of the midseason, and Damian Lillard is ranked 19, behind players such as Pascal Siakam, Paul George, as well as some players you could argue that he's better than, such as Jimmy Butler, and Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis, who have both been injured, as well as Devin Booker, who's probably on a similar level. This isn't new for Dame though, as early in his career he would be snubbed from the All-Star game multiple times, even though he was averaging 27 and 6 during the season. Despite all this, Damian Lillard has shown multiple times why you shouldn't underrate or disrespect him like this, as there's a reason why he's called Dame Time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing for more content just like this.